Hey, welcome back to Pop Culture Graveyard. I am Hollis, and this week we are going to focus on one of my favorite bands, Fishbone. For the uninitiated, Fishbone exists at the musical intersection of the Specials, Funkadelic, James Brown, Led Zeppelin, Bad Brains, and a block party that got shut down by the police, and an illegal cockfighting ring, and a Ralph Bakshi cartoon come to life. None of these are usable. Fishbone is everything. Now let me hit you with a disclaimer. Fishbone is still a kick-ass, viable live unit. If you want to do yourself a favor, go see Fishbone live. Whether they're playing an arena or they're playing a 200 capacity bar, you are going to see a great show. That said, I'm just going to focus on the period during which I really loved and followed the band. That is roughly 1985 through 1991. The knock on Fishbone early on from some old school rock critics was that they were a bit schizophrenic. But the schizophrenic nature of the band is one of the main reasons I love Fishbone. Plus, anytime you have a band with multiple songwriters, there are going to be different sides to the band and different points of view in each of the song's messages. So if you love ska mixed with funk, mixed with heavy metal guitar, plenty of soul, can I add jazz? A quick dollop of hardcore punk, and just a dash of roots reggae, have I got a band for you. Please join me for a deep dive into the classic years, according to me, of Fishbone. Before we get started, I just wanted to thank my latest patron. Thank you, Tim. You have gone above and beyond to support the show, and I really, really appreciate it. You are the man, Mr. Manny. If you're enjoying the content I'm bringing you and would like to help support the show, please consider joining my Patreon. It's at patreon.com/popculturegraveyard. And thanks. In 1985, Fishbone released Fishbone. This EP was produced by David Kahn. David Kahn's resume features everyone from Paul McCartney and Stevie Nicks to Romeo Void and Sublime. David worked very closely with Fishbone. He even came up with the Fishbone logo. That is David's design. And the Fishbone logo makes its first appearance on the back of this album cover. This is a good opportunity to meet the band. From left to right, you have Angelo Moore on vocals and sax, Kendall Special K Jones on guitar, Fish, aka Philip Fisher, on drums, his brother John Norwood Fisher on bass, Chris Dowd on vocals, keyboards, and trombone, and Walter Dirty Walt Kibbe II on vocals and trumpet. You can tell from their streetwear that they are very influenced by both the British ska scene and the South Central gang scene, and their fashion sense seems to be an irresistible hybrid of both. This EP kicks off with Ugly, which interpolates the childhood nursery rhyme, UGLY, you ain't got no alibi, you're just ugly, and I feel it is one of the greatest lead-off tracks of all time, simultaneously amping up the listener and seamlessly showcasing what each member of the band does best. The track Another Generation features some badass bass from Norwood and intertwined vocals from Angelo and Chris, who sing about the generation gap really existing within and having nothing to do with fashion or hair color. Everyone who lived through the punk movement should understand that sentiment. This song is by Kendall Jones, Special K, who tended to write some of my favorite lyrics in the band. Lyrics specific enough to tell a story, yet vague enough to spark my imagination. The last track on side one is Question Mark, aka Modern Industry. This is a very cool, industrial-tinged track that relentlessly name-checks dozens of real and fake radio stations, whose DJs are the voices of modern industry and who spin the music that brings us together. I'm happy that my beloved childhood radio station, WLIR, gets a shout-out. A little bit after the "This is an emergency broadcast" part. It was nice to hear because WLIR was how I first heard and fell in love with Fishbone. I just want to mention all of side one's tracks were written by Kendall Jones, with the exception of Question Mark, which was co-written with David Kahn. I mention that because Special K flies under the radar on a lot of Fishbone releases, and he is the creative engine that makes this band go. Don't get me wrong, this is a band of brothers, a band of equals, who all bring something very important to the table. But Special K is the special sauce, and he is the straw that stirs the drink from a songwriting standpoint. And I feel he never gets enough respect. Side 2, track 1, the power slot, very fittingly goes to Party at Ground Zero. Still perhaps the band's best known song. This track is a triumph, with each member of the band distinguishing themselves on their respective instrument. The message of the song sums up Fishbone perfectly, having a good time while the world crumbles all around you. Specifically, in this song, after the US and Russia's Cold War finally turns hot. This song was written by Special K, with Angelo and Norwood throwing in a few lines each, which is why Kendall gave them co-writing credit. That should tell you what good friends they all were back then. Party at Ground Zero, a B-movie starring you, and the world will turn to flowing pink vapor stew. Armageddon never sounded like so much fun. If the bomb should drop while this song is playing, bring it. I'm not scared. The video for Party at Ground Zero, by the way, was put out by Henry Selick, who would later go on to direct The Nightmare Before Christmas and Coraline. Party at Ground Zero is followed by the weird track, Voyage to the Land of the Freeze-Dried. You know what? Never mind. Let's just say the music outshines the lyrics. This leads us to EP ender, Lyin Ass Bitch. Such a fun song, co-written by Lisa Grant, who also provides the female vocal. This track details the titular lady, Lyin Ass Yvette, whose two-timing has horrible consequences on a group of friends. This track features, in my estimation, the best horn work on the entire album, which is saying something. Though some of this track's language has not aged well, the music itself still kicks like a mule and ends this album on a high note. To see the rest of this week's episode, please join my Patreon at patreon.com/popculturegraveyard.